welcome back, Prosperity Collabs. My name is Chris Mueller, and on today's episode, we're going to go ahead and continue our series on the 6 personal perspectives. Now, you may be an agent at a real estate company other than Keller Williams, and that's okay. I want you to keep listening because what we're going to be going through today is something that Gary Keller distilled from the top producers in the world across multiple fields. He looked at them and he said, what is it that has allowed these people to do so much more with their lives than the average? Like, how is it possible? And what he found was there are these 6 perspectives that all high achievers have. And then he challenged Keller Williams and essentially the world to adopt that. And again, this is our mindset, right? We're going to be talking about this a lot, but in your business, in your life, what I want you to do is I want you to look at the models of the people who are achieving the most and apply those models to your life. Everything is impossible until somebody does it. And then anyone can do it as long as they know how it was done, right? If you want to train to be, to lift 200 pounds, there is a method to it. If you want to run a marathon, there's a method to it. If you want to go to the moon, guys, there's a method to it, right? It doesn't really matter. If someone has done it, you can too. You just have to know how they did it. And so the 6 personal perspectives, we're looking at the models for thought that the highest achieving people in the world have adopted, and I'd like you to adopt too. So we started with committing to self-mastery. And self-mastery isn't about being a Zen monk somewhere on a mountaintop. It's about acknowledging that I'm really good at some things and I'm really bad at other things. And there are some things that I'm not good at that I'm going to have to find a way to get better at. And in order to do that, I'm going to have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. I'm going to have to seek out help, coaching, classes. They're going to help me improve to master myself, my aversion to feeling uncomfortable so I can become competent in other areas. That's moving towards self-mastery. We also talked about the 80-20 principle, that there is a small subset of activities, and it really doesn't matter what you're trying to achieve, but there's a small subset of activities that is going to make an oversized impact on your outcomes. Right? And so if you're trying to sell real estate at a very high level and you're not focused on that small subset, then you're probably not selling real estate at a high level. But if you can get focused on your 20% of activities that are going to lead to the 80% of results you want, man, you could do anything. And so in real estate sales, I'm going to say the 20% activities are your lead generation. It is above everything else in real estate sales, because if you don't have leads, you don't have a business. But if you have leads, you don't even have to work them. You can just sell them and you've got a business, right? So commit to the 80-20 rule in your business, commit to it across your whole life. Today, we're talking about the concept of moving from E to P. Now, this one can be a little confusing because the E stands for entrepreneurial. And as a real estate agent, I'm an entrepreneur. I started a business. I'm growing a business. It sounds negative, but what we're talking about is moving from the I started it, I do it, it's mine, I'm in charge of everything, to a purposeful approach to your business, right? So moving from entrepreneurial to purposeful. And the way I like to think about this is McDonald's makes hamburgers. They are not the best hamburgers in the world. They aren't even close to the best hamburgers in the world. But it really doesn't matter where you go. McDonald's is selling the same hamburger. If you go to, I was just in Northern California this weekend, I had a quarter pounder with cheese, and it is exactly the same as a quarter pounder with cheese that I could get here in Temecula. It's the same hamburger. It's reproducible. What enables that to happen are systems and models that can be duplicated over time over locations. They move from E, I'm the entrepreneur, I do everything. Everything lives inside of my head. Oh, the light bulb needs to change. I'll do that. Oh, the dishes need to be washed. I'm going to go do that. Oh, we need to do the accounting. I'm going to do that. To purposeful, what are the most important things we do? How can we systemize those things? And how can I focus on the areas that I make the biggest impact and have other people do the things that I don't need to do? How can I take what I do and distill that down to its most important parts so I can teach that to other people and then they can go do it at a high level as well, right? That E to P is what makes building a high functioning real estate team possible. And it's also the step that most real estate agents are unable to make because you have to slow down to move from E to P. You have to get really purposeful about where you want to be and not satisfied with anything but that purpose. And so you started a real estate team. And I've talked to many, many real estate agents who've had the situation where they got into real estate and they hustled and they worked so hard and they built really good businesses, but they built them based on strangers. They built them based on buying leads or running ads and bringing in strangers. Now they've done hundreds of transactions at this point, but their model has not adjusted to acknowledge the success that they've had. And so they're still in the entrepreneurial phase, the startup phase, and they're running and running and running, chasing strangers who have no social capital invested in the relationship. And what's happened is they have businesses, but they have no boundaries, and they're exhausted. And I talked to a number of them who are looking to get out of the business because they just can't do it anymore. See, the opposite would be, I went through the startup phase. I hustled, entrepreneurial. I worked really hard to get to a place where I now have a solid database of past clients and sphere of influence. So now I'm going to start shifting my focus away from the strangers, the people who have no social capital invested in our relationship, and I'm going to start shifting it into strengthening this broad network of success that I've created so that there's social capital, so that when the phone rings at 10 o'clock at night, these people know me, they like me, they trust me, they're not going to fire me based on that. Whereas the strangers with no social capital, you can't have boundaries with them. So moving from E to P is moving from hustle to purposeful. It's moving from, I'm going to do whatever it takes to be successful, to I'm achieving some success, and now I need to decide about what's the life I want and what are the steps I can take. And I'll tell you what, I coach agents through this process. I'm working with a couple of them right now who are, they didn't stop long enough to think about the fact that their business isn't even coming from the hustle anymore. When we break down their business, we see that crazy no boundaries, give away your life that they've been doing. The closings that they have aren't coming from that. The closings are coming from the people that know them, trust them, and want to do business with them because of who they are. So they're now in the process of acknowledging and moving to a much higher return on investment business, a much higher return on time invested business, and a much more purposeful life than that which they had in the E phase. Guys, there is a time in your business to be the chief cook and bottle washer, right? When you're starting, you got to hustle because this industry is an eat what you kill industry. You don't get paid unless you sell. So you hustle and you do everything you got to do, and that's good. The other side, though, is I'm going to work just as hard for much greater return because I got purposeful about the things that I need to do. I leveraged out the things I don't need to do. And now I am in that zone working with those people who give me the highest return on my time. Moving from E to P is easiest when you start with that mindset. When you start with a 5-year plan. When you start with benchmarks in mind that say, I'm going to get to X number of transactions. And when I get there, I'm going to hire my first assistant. And then once I get to X number of transactions more, we're going to bring on another assistant. And now we've got a nucleus for culture in our team. It's purposeful. And now I'm going to continue to build my business. So when we get to the next benchmark, I'm going to bring in a showing assistant and I'm going to bring them into the culture that we created. And I'm going to do this over 5 years or 4 years, or whatever your plan is, but you moved with purpose and you didn't just wing it and sprint as long as you can until you fell dead. You were systematic and purposeful at every step. That's what I teach. That's what I do in my consulting sessions. That's what I work with emerging agents and top producers to do, is to say, what's your plan? What's your business plan? You want to achieve X. How many units does that mean this year? Okay. What are your conversion rates? How many appointments do you need to go on to get the contracts that you need to get to the closings? Okay. How many conversations do you need to have on average to get to the appointments that you need to get to the contracts that you need to get to the closings? Okay. So to have those conversations, how many people in your database do you need to get to the conversations to get to the this is what we do. We move it from being, oh God, where's my next deal, to I just come into the office and I do the things I know I'm supposed to do and I get the results that I know I'm supposed to have. And when I hit the next benchmark, I bring on the help that I need to get to the next one. That's the work that I do when I consult with real estate agents. You can do that work without me, sure, but it's always easier to work with someone because it's the accountability, it's the encouragement, right? And so I want you to think about that. So we've covered a lot of ground in this series so far. We've talked about gaining some mastery over yourself, running to the things that make you uncomfortable. Because in running to them, not away from them, you're going to gain the skills necessary. There's a lot of self-confrontation there, but what's going to happen is eventually, if you remember the metaphor from the last that podcast, you're going to become the kind of person who rides that bike. You weren't when you started, but you mastered yourself, you overcame your fear, you leaned in, and you became that person. We talked about the 80-20 principle. That focusing on that subset, the 20% that has the outsized impact, and dedicating yourself to that so that you're going to get the benefit of that, and really kind of ignoring the 80% that demands attention but doesn't produce results. And then as quickly as possible, leveraging out that 80%, that brings us to our next move from E to P, entrepreneurial to purposeful, having a business plan so that when you're coming into the office, you can focus on your 20% of activities, and you've got a plan to leverage out the 80% of activities so that as your business grows, you're living a life that you want to live. You're building a business you want to own. You've got a career you want to work in so you can have experiences that you want to give and legacy that you want to leave. That's why that's our mission here at Keller Williams, right? We want to give that. We want to live that. And that's what we do through Prosperity Collabs, is we help agents build that life, move them from E to P. So we'll be continuing on this series, the 6 personal perspectives. I hope your interest is piqued. I hope you're thinking about this, going, how can I apply these things to my business? And hey, if you want some help, if you want to sit down and have a one-on-one consultation, just email me, chris@prosperitycollabs.com, or check us out at prosperitycollabs.com, and let's set up a conversation about how we can help you grow too. It's 100% free. It's a no strings attached. It's not a timeshare seminar where we're going to try to sell you at the end. You can take it and run with it to whatever degree you want to. So hey, it's been Chris Mueller with Prosperity Collabs. I look forward to connecting with you guys next time.